just get us started. But Lily, with us today, I've got Dr. Tracy Hill coming from a clinical psychology program at the University of Nebraska. I've asked her to join us today to help with the interview and give you some feedback as well on the program itself. So, welcome, Dr. Hill. Thank you.
Hey,
Hi, nice to meet you.
you too.
Well, Lily, I appreciate you coming back for round two. I know yesterday we had spoke in your initial conversation, and we went over some pretty important questions and some very interesting questions there. And I was wondering if you could, for Dr. Hill, could you give your theoretical orientation again? And that way she's kind of got an idea of your background as well coming into the program.
Yes, so my theoretical orientation is cognitive behavioral theories and also psychodynamic theories at Tulane in both my undergraduate career and also my graduate career. I got a lot of training in cognitive behavioral therapies. So I've really valued those experiences and I'm looking to further those experiences and also learn more about the psychodynamic approaches since I am very interested in child and family aspects.
Excellent. So thank you for that. Dr. Hill, any questions in regard to the orientation for their background?
No, I got all that. Thank you, Lily. Just so you know, I might be taking notes. So if I'm looking down, I'm just taking notes so that I can circle back to things as we need to.
Sure, sure.
So in that same set, though, Lily, we talked about your theoretical orientation. What are your specific research interests? So do you have a research project or something that you've started yourself or that you've have taken on here in your learnings?
So I'm not as interested in research. I've applied to school clinical PsyD programs. So I have had a lot of clinical experiences and I'm looking to further my clinical experiences. So I'm not as interested in research, but currently I am in a clinical and research project. This past August, I started co facilitating a social emotional learning skill building group with second graders in a local elementary New Orleans school. And all of those second graders have experienced trauma. So we gave them universal screeners in August. These kids who are in my group, in my skill building group, they have all been assessed as being at risk. So that's why they're in this specific skill building group. And these kids, we're monitoring them throughout the group. We have them do worksheets every week, and I collect the worksheets at the end. So we're doing a lot of progress monitoring. And then in May, once the skill building group concludes, we're going to give them the same universal screener to see if the skill building group helped them at all deal with traumas and other areas in their life.
Okay. And that was, you said from August to May, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Lily. Dr. Hill?
So given your experience recently in New Orleans, is there a specific, without getting into actual HIPAA or any specifics about a person or a child, is there any recent, encounters that you experienced during that time that you maybe have conceptualized how you would proceed in treating that person?
Yes. So I do work with these kids in a group setting. So we work a lot on a specific curriculum. I come in and I do second step lessons with these children. And every week it's a different skill. So this week we worked on feeling proud and what that means. And they have a worksheet that corresponds with it. I personally don't know much about the trauma that they experienced. I just know that they have experienced trauma, and that's why they've been placed in this group with me. So, my goal for all of these kids is to really work on trying to have them change their thoughts to be more positive, change behaviors, focus on positive aspects of their life. And that's really my goal with them.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lily, not only for your educational program, for your master's program, for your clinical studies, but in just life in general. Right now, it's a very tumultuous time, both politically, and I know this is not a political conversation, but both politically as well as it can affect both your day to day, can affect your higher ed learning, and it can affect everything else that you've got in your world right now. So, how do you foster diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it's in your program, whether it's in your day to day, whether it's in your again with the clinical studies that you handle? How do you incorporate DEI into that space?
I foster DEI in my spaces through the experiences that I have had in undergrad at Tulane University. Every semester, I student taught at a local New Orleans school. So all of these schools were underprivileged, underserved, understaffed. Most of the kids came from marginalized communities and were underprivileged. So I worked with these children and spent a lot of time with them in the classroom and also in one-on-one settings. So I have experiences from all of my semesters in my undergraduate career. This past summer, I interned at a private pediatric psychology group called the Waverly Group, and I worked with a very diverse group of children there. A lot of the children that I've worked with had autism or other developmental or learning delays. I sat in on a lot of assessments with those children and learned a lot from that. I also co-facilitated two skill building groups there, and one of them was with boys with social pragmatic communication disorder. So I learned how to work with a very diverse group of children. And now the group that I'm in New Orleans with the social emotional learning skill building group with the second graders, these kids are also from a diverse population. Not only are they from, most of them are from marginalized and underprivileged communities, but also they've all experienced trauma. So that makes them a diverse group. So I want to take my experiences from my teaching and my clinical work and take that with me. I think that I bring a lot of value with those different experiences, and I'm also looking to further all of those experiences. I want to go into working with a diverse group of children, specifically children who have experienced trauma in the developmental stages of their lives, and also children with autism and social pragmatic communication disorder and other developmental delays.
Okay. Lily, great answer, and thank you for that. Yep.
Thank you.
So, Lily, with all your experiences that you've just described, dealing with many diverse populations, many of them underprivileged, who've experienced vast amounts of trauma that are on, I'm sure, a spectrum. How do you take care of yourself? Do you have a way to make sure your mental health is continued and positive so that you can continue to help other populations? That's an important part of, dealing with other people with psychology issues or yeah. So how do you deal with that?
Yes, so I deal with that usually by just taking time for myself. I really value spending time with and talking to my friends and family. I like to exercise and go on walks, do other things to distract myself, sometimes just like watching a TV show at night. But I really do love working with children. I've always loved working with children. I've known for a while that this is the career path for me and that I'm passionate about that and committed to that. So all of my experiences with children are usually very positive, even going into the school every week and running these skill building groups. Although these children have experienced trauma and I'm there to help them with that, it's always such a great time working with them. And my favorite thing to do is to work with these children. So I get a lot of joy just from working with them.
All right. Dr. Hill, if there's nothing else, I've got a final question for Lily. Lily, how do you handle or work under stressful situations, or the pressure of the environment you're in? And if so, how do you do that? And do you have an example of how you handled that?
I think I work very well under stress and pressure. I am very motivated by stress and pressure. So when I feel that in the environment, I tend to set goals for myself and do everything that I can to achieve those goals. I'm very dedicated and a hard worker, so working under stressful and high pressure situations is something that I'm used to, but something that really does motivate me to do my absolute best. I think this past semester is a good example of me working under stressful and high pressure situations. It was my first semester of graduate school in my accelerated master's program at Tulane. So I had to deal with the transition from going from undergrad to graduate school, which I wasn't expecting to be such a big transition. I definitely had a much heavier workload, and I was also applying to all of the PsyD programs at the same time. So I really had to prioritize my schoolwork and dealing with that transition, and also doing all of my applications. And I think I worked very well under this high stress and pressure situation. I was extremely motivated. I knew that I needed to do everything I could to do well in school and to make sure I was furthering my career aspirations. And I was able to achieve a 4.0 last semester in graduate school and also submit all my applications on time.
That is excellent. Um, Dr. Hill, I appreciate your time this afternoon. Lilly, it's always a pleasure to both sit with you and hear about your backgrounds, where you're going and what your desires and passions are. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.